Evelyn Chevalier, Astra Yao's personal bodyguard. A woman of elegance, precision, and combat mastery. But today, we're not going to be focusing on her skills, her speed, or even her immense strength. No. We're here to discuss something far more important. No, not those. Her high heels. Because let's be honest, Evelyn spends every battle flipping through the air, kicking at insane speeds and landing with enough force to break the sound barrier. Yet, her heels remain perfectly intact. And if there's one thing we know about power scaling, it's that consistency is proof of durability. Now before we can even begin to figure out what her heels are made of, we need to determine what kind of punishment they endure on a regular basis during commissions. No, not that kind of commission. Bad, Pyro. Bad. But, speaking of weight, Evelyn's height is officially listed at 173 centimeters, or 5'8" in freedom units. The same height as former UFC champion Holly Holm. However, Evelyn has a slimmer, yet more well-endowed frame when compared with Holm. Since Holm's walk-around weight is estimated to be around 70 kilograms, or 155 pounds, and with Eve's similarly tall, albeit more slender build, and also accounting for her ridiculously large personality, I believe we can safely estimate her weight to be at around 69 kilos.
Nice.
Or 152 pounds. Now, was working all that out really necessary?
It was super necessary.
Because now that we have her weight, we can see what happens when she lands from a standard combat maneuver. Evelyn reaches 3 times her own height, or 5.19 meters, during the aerial portion of her auto combo, and even higher during her EX special attack. But for consistency's sake, we'll be using the 3 times height. Given the speed of our standard travel animations and using some basic physics and quick maths,
You flippin' twit!
she likely hits the ground at approximately 10.08 meters a second, or 36 kilometers an hour. Now that we know Eve's speed at the moment of impact, we can calculate how much force her heels experience if she lands without much cushioning or bending her legs. The force is determined using a relationship between her weight, her speed, and how quickly she comes to a complete stop. If Eve lands hard and only takes 1/10 of a second to stop, the impact will be extremely intense. When we plug her weight and speed into the calculation, we can see that if she comes to a full stop in 1/10 of a second, as gameplay demonstrates, the force applied would come out at around 7,000 newtons, which equates to roughly 700 kilograms of force per heel, which is a low ball, by the way. More on that later. In other words, if she were wearing regular high heels, they'd explode on impact like they were made of dry spaghetti. But of course, this is Evelyn we're talking about. And during her EX special attack, she don't just fall. She moves at speeds that would place her in at least the hypersonic range. My reasoning for this is that every playable agent in ZZZ is able to dodge bullets, with characters such as Evelyn, Soldier Zero Ambi, and Hoshimi Miyabi being shown to blitz the player's perspective camera, seemingly moving so fast that we can't track them. Given that it's widely accepted that a speed blitz is around the 10 times mark, and in-game you're viewing things from the perspective of the legendary proxies Bell and Wise, I think a 10 times speed multiplier is more than fair here. If anything, it may be a little conservative. This would place Evelyn anywhere between Mach 5 to Mach 50. Now at Mach 5, which is 1700 meters a second, her downward speed from falling becomes practically irrelevant compared to her total velocity. Why? Time for a quick physics lesson. From our previous calculation, we know that Evelyn's downward fall speed is equal to 10.08 meters a second. But at Mach 5, she's moving horizontally at 1700 meters a second. Since her horizontal speed is now overwhelmingly greater than her vertical speed, the combined effect of both motions can be found using a mathematical relationship called the Pythagorean theorem. This method involves squaring both speeds, adding them together, and then taking the square root to find the overall result. Despite a small downward pull from gravity, the final velocity barely changes. At such extreme speeds, the downward motion becomes almost irrelevant, and her total speed remains practically identical to her original hypersonic pace. And so to find our actual impact velocity, we're going to use this formula. In short, her vertical speed is so tiny that it barely affects the impact. The sheer horizontal velocity means her heels take the full force of that Mach 5 impact. If she stops in 1/10 of a second, as previously inferred, the force becomes 1.17 meganewtons. That's 119 tons of force. Even if she soft lands, in 3/10 of a second, such as during her ultimate, that still works out to around 39 tons of force. That's the force of 30 elephants stepping on a single designer stiletto. That's more impact than getting hit by a freight train. Under these kind of forces, normal heels wouldn't just break, they'd be atomized. At this point, Evelyn don't need to dodge. The ground needs to dodge her. And now all of this, it begs a question. What the fuck are these things made out of? Hoyoverse, I'm gonna need some answers.
None of your business.